Okay, so fabulous. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to this cooking class. It's been a little while since we've done one, so we're very excited to be back. I'll just very quickly introduce the advisors cooking and also Claire, who is monitoring our chat and doing the admin for us. So firstly, my name's Lindsay. I'm a team leader for Thermomix. I've worked for Thermomix for coming up for 4 years. I'm a trained chef. I always said I'd never have a Thermomix. I absolutely love it now, and sort of did a full sort of 180 on it. So this is why I'm really passionate about showing people exactly what they can do. I think you've just got to see it in the flesh or on Zoom like this to fully understand it. Hence, you'll see on our t-shirts, if you don't own one, you'll never understand. So most of us are wearing these t-shirts, and that is a fantastic motto, because if you, as Thermomix owners, you'll know how wonderful they are, but you've really got to experience it to believe it. So that's me. And joining me, I've got Marie, who is also a trained chef. She's worked in the hospitality industry for many years. She's also a chocolate, I can never pronounce it. Is it a chocolatier, a chocolatier, chocolate maker? Makes extraordinary handmade chocolates and runs classes, all sorts of classes. Chocolates and cocktails are currently the favourite, and she does a bit of sushi as well. So she knows her way around the kitchen. We've also got Sue Hambleton. Sue is a healthy living, healthy eating guru. Sue is a kinesiologist, really interested in sort of alternative diets. And cutting out lots of the nasties from our diet. So if any of you've got any sort of nutritional health-based questions, Sue is the person to ask. And last but not least, we've got Linda joining us all the way from Norfolk. Linda runs another company, was introduced to Thermomix, what was it, about 2 years ago now, maybe 18 months ago. Absolutely loved her Thermomix and decided to become an ambassador for us, as lots of owners do. So if any of you are watching this thinking, oh, I'd really like the look of what you're doing and to find out more, please either get in contact with your advisor or me, and I can share more details about becoming a Thermomix advisor. We love it when our owners become advisors. Owners make the best advisors because they know their machine and they love it and they're passionate about it. Now, what is it? No, I'm going to have to call another child now. I was on a roll now, and I feel like I've now forgotten somebody, and it's Claire.
Me.
So Claire, in fact, I'm going to let Claire introduce herself. She's on the screen.
You're going to the child. Yeah, so I've joined. I also am a team leader like Lindsay, but I always try and gate crash Lindsay's demos because she is very supportive. I've known her for a couple of years, and she was really encouraging when I joined Thermomix, and I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for her support and encouragement. And she doesn't, beat me like her children. So hey, happy day.
Yeah. Fabulous. Oh, thank you. And we always love it when you join us because Claire's sense of humour is second to none. So you are in for a treat tonight. I'll be the serious one, stressing that we're not running to time, and Claire will be cracking all sorts of inappropriate jokes on Zoom. So that's why we love her taking part. Right. Okay. I think it's probably time to get started, isn't it? So we're going to kick off. I've got a rather long time plan here. So let's get going. And we're going to go straight over to Marie, who is going to start with making some rolls, but not just any rolls, 2 flavoured rolls. Over to you, Marie.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So, yeah, as Lindsay said, obviously, we've got a picnic theme today, and you want a sandwich or something to take with you, a roll to take with you to a picnic. What's better than instead of having to have a roll where you've got the filling falling out of it, the filling is actually cooked into the middle of it. That's what these rolls are. And we've got 2 different flavours going into them today. So without further ado, let's show you just how easy it is to make the most fantastic breads in the Thermomix. So I'm going to bring you down to the machine and I'll tell you what I'm adding and what I'm doing as we go along.
And all the recipes, I will put the links for the Cookie Do links in the chat.
Fantastic. Thanks, Claire. Okie dokie. So 2 flavoured picnic rolls is what we're going to do today, and we're going to go into start cooking. So as those of you that have got your Thermomixes already will know, one of the most wonderful things about it is the fact that you've got the scales that are already incorporated into the machine. So everything is as simple as weighing directly in. So 250 grams of milk going straight in there. And next, we want some butter, 50 grams of unsalted butter, which is like me at the moment, slightly melted. We are definitely having picnic weather, not necessarily the weather for doing as much baking as I've been doing, but you know, why change a habit of a lifetime? So some sugar. Now I've actually cut down the sugar. It says 50 grams of sugar. I'm actually only putting half that amount of sugar in, 25. So again, the recipes, they are guided recipes, but you still have the ability to be able to flex those where you need to. And a teaspoon of dried yeast straight in there. And then we're going to pop the top into the lid there and just pop that on. And what that's going to do is just going to spend a minute warming through the milk and the yeast together there, and the sugar. It's going to feed the yeast and actually get that working for us, get that activated before we start. So in the meantime, I'll just talk you through my 2 fillings that we're going to use. So this does look like a rather stingy bowl, but that's because I've already done these ones, started these ones off in advance. Because there's 24 rolls this is going to make, so it's going to make a full feast, and I didn't think you wanted to watch all of that on screen. But what I've got here, which looks rather peculiar, is a mixture of brie and bacon. It chops up the brie in the Thermomix for you on the recipe. It tells you to put the bacon in, it sautés the bacon off for you. So again, it's all still in the same mixing bowl. You're not washing in between, because actually you're keeping all that flavour in there. And then it says to just mix it through with a little salt and pepper and a little maple syrup. Now, my choice instead of maple syrup, because my other half's not mad keen on maple syrup, was actually I've used a little bit of cranberry sauce in there, obviously homemade in the Thermomix anyway. And the other one is like a tapenade made with tomatoes, hard goat's, sun-dried tomatoes, hard goat's cheese and some black olives. And it was in there literally within 30 seconds, all minced up to a paste like that. And that's what's going to go in and flavour our other rolls. So that has warmed through for us now. You can see we are in a liquid state there with all the butter all melted. And now we are just going to bring that down again. Going to go next on the screen, and it's just asking for 500 grams of strong white bread flour. Watch me throw this everywhere now. I'll try and do this quite neatly. 500 grams. There we go. Perfect. Okie dokie. And then literally a little bit of salt. And now we are just going to knead that. So I think it's going to mix it together for 10 seconds first. Speed 4. So you've always got your timey temperature and your speeds. Obviously your speeds do not just the speed, but the method that is needed as well. So that's the mixing done. Next, tells you to leave everything in place and then just knead for 3 minutes. So come back to me for a second and move these bits out of the way. I will show you the dough as soon as that's done. Obviously just 3 minutes, that's pretty quick, and it's not taking up any of your time, and kneading dough would be the hardest bit. So what you're going to do then is divide your dough up and just very roughly roll it into 24 of these little balls. Now they look a bit like dough balls at the moment, and effectively that's exactly what they are. If you come down to me here, what we're going to do is just show you how we're going to fill those. So just going to squeeze them down. Now you can use your fingers to do this, or you could use a rolling pin. I like to do a bit of both, to be honest. You want them to be about... Sorry?
That's not a drumstick, is it? That is a rolling pin.
Drumstick. No, it is a chapati pin, to be honest, but it's my favourite. My favourite. Use whatever you feel comfortable with.
I've now got rolling pin envy, actually.
Yeah.
I quite like the look of that one.
I love it. Rolling anything thin, so tortilla breads, anything like that, flatbreads.
Yeah,
it's great.
I think I need one of those in my life. Thanks, Marie.
Yeah.
That's all right. And around the edges, I just like to thin it around the edges, and you'll see why in a minute, because we're going to be pulling those edges up and over the top of the filling. And if you're not careful, you end up with a thin bit on the bottom where you've rolled it, and a thicker bit where you're pulling it all together and it's gathering. So it's better to just go around the edges and thin it out slightly.
Great tip.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so we're just going to put a teaspoon of filling in the centre. My teaspoons are always quite big. I'm quite generous with things. As everybody who knows me, everything I do with food is quite generous. So don't like the idea of anyone going hungry. So just pull it out slightly and push it into the centre. Hold it in place in the centre and work your way round, holding it in the centre, pulling it in, making sure all the filling is enclosed. You'll end up with like a little purse. You just need to tightly squeeze that together then, so that it is really well sealed, because you don't want that to be seeping out. Turn it over and just give it a very gentle, you just want to apply enough pressure that you can feel the dough underneath your hand, but without squashing it down. And just give that a very gentle cup and roll round. And when that's a nice tight little shape, like that, that's got your filling in there, it's all ready to be baked. We're just going to put those, do that with the remainder, put them all on a tray and leave them to prove for about, the recipe says 40 minutes. Now I've got a proving drawer, so I will be able to prove them hopefully in about 20-25 minutes. And then we're going to give them a quick egg wash to make them beautiful and glossy and look really appetizing. Sprinkle a few seeds on top, and they're going to bake for 25 minutes in a 180 oven. So very standard heat oven for 25 minutes. So just doing this again whilst that's finishing off. Just a spoonful in there. That's perhaps a bit of a big spoonful even for me. And just fold it all into the centre. Make sure you're keeping all the mixture in the centre. Make that little purse, pull it in nice and tight. Told you I'd put a bit too much mixture in there, just pinch that off. And give it a good squeeze. Make sure you get it all together. Turn it over and give it a good roll. And get that nice bun shape there. That's all we need, nice and smooth, and leave them to rest. And this, in the meantime, has finished. That is our dough. That is just how easy that is. Look how cleanly this even comes away. If you want to remove dough, this is a really neat trick. The little star-shaped nozzle at the bottom of your Thermomix, just give it a little twist, and that will help all the dough come out. You've got literally nothing left in the bottom there to get out. So super easy. And all we've got to do really is leave them to rest and bake them off. So that's me for now. I'll see you back later for empanadas.
Great. Thanks, Marie. Brilliantly done. Some fabulous tips. And also there's quite a few sort of stuffed dough ball recipes actually on Cookie Do. So it's really worth knowing how to do them. The Christmas tree pull-apart bread is absolutely fantastic. Obviously this time of year you don't have to make the Christmas tree shape. We did that at a cooking class a couple of years ago. But it's stuffed with like a garlic and mozzarella filling, and it's really good. It's fantastic for pizza night, or just for an after-school snack, or for lunch as well. So right, let's go over to Sue for the broccoli, and we're doing broccoli and feta tarts. We're not doing bacon because Sue limits the amount. In fact, I don't know if you eat meat, Sue. Some members of her family do, but mostly vegan / vegetarian food that Sue specialises in. So over to Sue.
Okay, sorry, I just realised I needed to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep, fabulous. Okay, just close that window on there. Right, so broccoli and feta tarts. I do have one bacon eater, but he's a bit fussy, so I decided we're going to go with the feta, which is the safe option for us. So we'll see how this works. And it also just shows how you can modify things and they still work really well. So on the screen here, there's a couple of steps beforehand which I've already done, which is to take my muffin tray. I've greased that really well. That's where they're going to be baked in the oven. And if I just come through the next few steps, so we are going to start off by popping some vegetables in to saute. So I've got just pre-prepared here some little pieces of carrot. So 100 grams of carrot going straight in there. Pop those in. And then if I just press next, we also want 100 grams of onion. So again, just chopping those into quarters. I so much love not having to chop the onion into tiny pieces. So that can go in. And then we want some oil. It's extra virgin olive oil it's asking for, 25 grams. So I'm just going to pop that in, weighing that in as we go. And that's it. Perfect. And then if I pop the lid on, that is going to chop those. I'm just going to speed 5 for 3 seconds. Just going to chop those up a bit. There we go. And then it's asking us to scrape that down. So we just pop those down a little bit into the bottom. And obviously in the process of doing that, it's all coated everything nicely with oil. So we get a nice even saute, which is the next step that we're going to follow. So popping the lid back on, we're going to set that. It's now asking for 4 minutes. I don't think you can quite see my screen actually. I'll try and modify the position of that in a bit so you can see that we've got 4 minutes on the screen at 120 degrees, which is preset. And we're literally just turning the speed up to speed 1 on the dial to set that off cooking. So I'll just do that now. And then I think whilst that's cooking, we're going to go back to Marie and we're going to be chopping and changing between us, I think, as we do the next steps. So I think it's back to you, Marie.
I think
It's over to me, isn't it? I think.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Yeah, I've got.
Honestly, we do know what we're doing.
16 buns to make.
We need to move faster, Marie. Come on.
Sorry, I'm jumped ahead on the plan. Yes.
Come on, get your buns out. Get your buns
So
sorted.
just to confuse you even further, it is me on the time plan with the pasta, but I'm actually just going to jump in and grate my chocolate in readiness for the cakes in the jar. So I've got my chocolate cake recipe, and I haven't got white chocolate callets, which are just like little chocolate chips, but I've just got some standard white chocolate bars. So all I've done is just broken it into pieces. Click on next. It's telling me to put the lid on, just like that, and then I'm just going to grate up the chocolate. I'm just doing that now
because she can. Now we can.
Take seconds.
Yeah. I'm just doing that now because we've got to melt it and add some butter to it, I believe. So I will do that whilst somebody else is doing something a bit more interesting on screen. Right, so let's go on to this pasta caprese. So I've just swapped between the recipes. So what we've done with our machines is that we've put the recipes that we're cooking this evening into our weekly planner. So they can be found under My Week on the Thermomix screen. So I'm just going to select the recipe that I want to cook and click Start Cooking. So there we go. So, and yes. Now, there are quite a few recipes actually that start in this way by making a pesto. Depending on sort of the ingredients, you can either make a basil pesto, or there's lots of different pesto recipes, walnut and kale, I think there's a spinach pesto. You can actually make a rocket pesto. So if you've got any leftover sort of salad leaves like rocket, especially with a strong flavour that's they're going past the best, it's worthwhile making a pesto out of them, and then it will prolong obviously the shelf life once it's stored in oil. So lots of different recipes that you can have a look at on Cookie Do. Right, we're going to start making the pesto. I make an awful lot of pesto actually because I've got a child I absolutely love with, in fact 2 children really love it. So I generally have a jar like that I keep in my fridge. So I'll just add whatever's left over from this recipe into that. But it's asking me to start with putting some Parmesan in, which I think might actually be in my fridge, because I wanted to keep it nice and cold. There we are. So you can actually use your Parmesan rinds in the pesto. It's a really good way to use up Parmesan rinds as the Thermomix will chew through them. So 50 grams goes in, and then it's saying put the lid on. Where's my lid? I seem to be down a Thermomix lid. One of my children's emptied the dishwasher today, and when one particular in particular empties them, I can never find anything.
Am I on mute? I hope I am.
No, I think somebody's not on mute. Can't see, so we can hear something.
Okay. I was just 10 seconds. So we've grated chocolate, and now we've grated parmesan. So there we go. We've got lovely grated parmesan. Click on next. Now it's asking for some pine nuts, 20 grams of toasted pine nuts. Now I rarely use pine nuts in pesto. They're actually quite difficult to find at the moment, and they're also really expensive. So you can really use any nuts that you like, but cashew nuts are brilliant because they're they've got a fairly bland taste. So actually you can't really detect any difference. And a lot of the cheaper brands of pesto won't use the pine nuts. They'll use something like cashew anyway. So they go in. So that's a little money saving tip for you. And then some fresh basil leaves. So I shaved off my basil plant earlier. Just about got 40 grams there. And then some extra virgin olive oil. So it's 80 grams of extra virgin olive oil. And you probably can't see it from where you are because I haven't got the camera focused on my screen. But for those that are new to Thermomix, the recipe is appearing on the screen with the weighing scale. So all I need to do is ask me for 80 grams. I just need to put in 80 grams and I can see exactly on the screen how much I've got. And then some lemon juice, 25 grams of lemon juice. So in that goes. I'm never this prepared when I'm cooking normally. And a garlic clove. So 1 garlic clove goes in, and then a little bit of sea salt. I always say to my team, make sure you have all your ingredients ready, and then end up running around the kitchen trying to find half of them. But tonight I was determined it was all going to go to plan. Famous last words. Right, lid on. And now it's just asking me to turn the speed to speed 7. There we go. Now it even tells you, this is what makes cooking with a Thermomix so easy. It even tells you to scrape down the sides of the mixing bowl with a spatula, because of course, where it's been grinding away, you've got a little bit of the mixture around the side. So let's scrape it down. So this is ideal for children because it really is like having a teacher or somebody to guide them right next to them, telling them exactly what to do. You don't need to be there telling them to scrape down the bowl because the Thermomix is doing that for you. So children are able to use these machines quite safely and easily on their own.
Just to let everybody know that I've just noticed I'm sending lots of messages to everyone in the waiting room. Nobody's in the waiting room, so I'm just going to promote them to everybody who's actually watching. I've just noticed that, thinking, well, everyone's being a little quiet, but that's because they haven't seen the messages. So be prepared, they're all about to come through again. One job I had.
Well done,
job.
How much wine have you had? Or gin? Gin, what gin are you on?
Just one, a big one.
All right, there we go. That'll do it. Okay, so now I had the message on my screen saying transfer to a large serving bowl and set aside. So here's my beautiful pesto. So I'm just going to scrape it into in fact, a large serving bowl. What am I doing? Here's my Thermomix serving bowl. Why not? In fact, I think Lee and Susan wanted to see this. So this is a great example, a great use for the Thermomix serving bowl. So you can decant straight into the Thermomix serving bowl. And then when the pasta's ready, that will be going in there. Lid will go on and it will keep it all warm for 2 to 3 hours because this is a double-walled stainless steel bowl. So they're fab, actually. I don't know if anybody managed to get themselves a Thermomix serving bowl as a referral gift last month. So if you refer any of your friends or family or people that you know to Thermomix, we will give you a little gift as a thank you for sharing the love of Thermomix and helping us to grow our community in the UK. We're desperately trying to catch up in Europe. In Europe, they're so far ahead of us. Everybody's heard of Thermomix, or Bimby as it is in some countries. But still in the UK, we're kind of like the best kept secret in the kitchen. So we obviously want to change that, and our mission by 2025 is to get a Thermomix into every home It's a bold statement, and we need your help to do that, because as passionate users and owners yourselves, you are the people that go out and talk to your family and friends and encourage them to buy Thermomix, and we love to reward you for doing that. So I think we've got a nice little ice cream scoop and set, which is actually quite nice for decanting your frozen fruit sorbet into. So Claire will hopefully Claire will confirm that on the chat. Right, that's gone into the bowl. I've already got some tomatoes cut up in there. Then, now, this is the key thing, and this is one of the things that are reasons why I love my Thermomix. As a busy mum, I hate washing up, hate it with passion. I don't know anybody that likes washing up, really. But my next instruction is saying, without washing up the mixing bowl. So here we go. We've just made the pesto, and now we can go straight into the next step of the recipe, which is going to be boiling some pasta and steaming some chicken. It wants me to put 300 grams of pasta. So if you didn't have a Thermomix, obviously what you would need to do here is you would have your food processor or stick blender to make your pesto with. It wouldn't be made in 20 seconds as it is with the Thermomix. Then you need to get a pan onto the boil to boil your pasta. Then you might need a frying pan to saute your chicken. But no, with the Thermomix, we're doing it all in this one bowl, and it's going to wash itself up at the end. Amazing, absolute genius. Okay, so 300 grams of pasta is going in. Now some boiling water. Not quite boiling this water, but you know, nearly. So I'm just going to put in my water. Okay. And then place the varoma in position. So in the varoma already, I have just got my chicken pieces cut up, a little bit of oil over the top and some seasoning on them. So to place the varoma in position, just going to pop the lid on. I'm being pulled, as you can see, by a 3-year-old who wants me, always when it's my turn, never when I'm off camera. Place the varoma in position. So now this is going to steam. So we're going to cook the pasta and we're going to steam our chicken at the same time. And then it says weigh into the varoma dish some chicken breasts diced into 2 centimetre slices. I've already got them in there. Okay, season the chicken with salt and pepper, already done. And then pop the lid on. And it's just going to cook away for 11 minutes. This is a fantastic dish, actually, for lunches. You can make it the day before and take it with you. My daughter often uses it in her school lunchbox, and her teachers comment on how healthy and delicious it looks. It is absolutely fabulous for a quick tea or an easy lunch, and very impressive as well when you've got people around. So now the next recipe on the screen is to add some cherry tomatoes and some mozzarella into the bowl with the pesto. So I'm going to get on with that whilst we go back to Sue for her broccoli and bacon tarts.
Sue?
Okay. So we have in here now the onions and carrots are nicely sauteed. You can just have a look-see in there. Now the next step typically would be to add in the bacon lardons. So if you were doing it, that's when you would put them in. I'm going to use feta instead, which doesn't need to fry off beforehand. So we're just going to add that in at the end. So I'm going to skip that step. People often ask this, can you skip steps? Does it give you a big warning sign if you do something wrong? But you can adapt things within reason. You can adapt things to suit. So the next step is to add, what have I done with the simmering basket? It's here somewhere. Hang on a second. I've lost my
It's hiding.
Oh, there we go. It's on my chair. That's not a very sensible place to put it. Trying to do too many things at once. So here's the simmering basket. I'm just going to pop that in over and above the veg that's already in there. And then if we click on to next from there, we're going to weigh in some broccoli florets. So I've literally just cut up some small florets of broccoli, and it asks for 12. Roughly, it gives you a rough weight as well. So I'm just going to pop those all in there, and they are going to steam off at the same time. So clicking on to next, we also add a pinch of salt. And then we pop the lid back on, and then we're going to do a steam of that for 10 minutes on a speed one. So I'm just going to set that off now, and then we'll have all of the vegetables ready to go into the muffin tins before we make the cream and egg filling to go on top. So if I set that off, that's going there. So that's going to take 10 minutes. And now we're going back to Marie, I believe. Have I got that right?
Yes, you have. Indeed.
Have you got your eggs?
You
in?
have indeed.
Have you got your eggs in for your Scotch eggs?
What was that?
Have you got your eggs in for your Scotch eggs?
That's coming after the next bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
Okay.
stay with Marie. Lovely.
Right. Okie dokie. Okay. So back with me again. So Argentinian empanadas. Who's heard of them? Who knows what they are? Who likes them? Well, to be honest, I had them in a restaurant, but I'd never made them before. But what they are is South American pasty. Think of it that way. But a bit more interesting fillings. The
I'll put it to bed after
pastry is actually a hot water pastry. Now that's the same sort of pastry as we make our Cornish pasties from, things like our pork pies, and actually it's notoriously quite difficult. And that's because once we've melted the
get Daniel down.
I think that's
You can read her some stories.
So once we've melted the water and butter down, it's a case of beating in the flour, and that's quite hard work without a Thermomix. However, we've got one, so it's not hard at all. So bring you down here and I'll show you just how easy it is, and then I'll show you the method of actually putting them together. Okay, so we've got the Argentinian empanadas. Start cooking. Let's make the dough. 100 grams of water. So 100 grams of water. Love this. This is the measuring cup out of the top of our lids. Just inside, if you don't already know, there is a 50 ml and 100 ml measure. We want 100 ml in there, so that's job done, no weighing out needed. And the butter. Now this is, again, like the rest of us at the moment, a bit melty. Not to worry, it's going to be more melted very soon. 175 grams of butter.
Because it's homemade and fresh butter, obviously, Marie.
Actually, this one wasn't, but don't tell, Claire. Don't tell. Normally it is.
No one would ever have known.
Gone through inordinate amounts. I could have fibbed, but I won't.
No.
Okie dokie. A little bit of salt. And then we're just going to pop the lid on there and melt them together. Okay. Whilst that's just melting down, I'll show you the dough. The dough is actually really pliable. The only problem, well, I say problem, the only thing with this recipe is that you need to think about it in advance, because you need to make sure the dough, I'll show you when it comes out, it is, obviously it's hot, so it's very, very runny, and it needs to go into the fridge to firm up. So it takes about 2-3 hours to firm up properly in the fridge. But then you've got a really nice elasticy, pliable dough, nice and easy to work with. It actually says on the recipe to divide it, roll it into a log, divide it up into 24, and then to roll out each piece of 24 that you've divided up. That seems a little bit long-winded. There's no reason for that for me. I literally took the dough, cut it into 4 pieces, rolled it out, and I'm just going to use a bowl or a plate or whatever is roughly the size that you want it to be, which the recipe says 12 centimetres. That's what this bowl is, and I'm just going to lie that on and very gently run the knife around the edge of it. Super easy to roll out, super easy to cut and to deal with, and you've got your rounds there just like that. So no hassle with that at all, just literally rolled it out. As I say, we'll just do the rest of them while we're here. And then you can re-roll the dough again up. As I say, it's nice and pliable. No issues with re-rolling the dough, that works really well as well. And this is quite a big recipe. It actually makes about 15 or 16 empanadas. So there are also, this recipe is for chicken empanadas, but there are also tuna options on cookie dough. There are beef options, there are mixed vegetable options, there's mushroom options, so loads of options available, regardless of your preference or your diet. They're all available on there for you. And to be honest, once you've had a crack at it, you could easily make this up with whatever leftovers you've really got in the fridge or freezer, whatever flavours you fancy. As I always say, it's guided cooking. That does not mean that you need to stick to it absolutely religiously. I normally find having a go at the recipes, first of all, is a great way to start, and then make any changes that you want to moving forward from there once you know how the recipe works.
I like the one that says happy veggie empanadas. That's one of the
absolute happy veggies. Of course, they're happy
veggies. Yes, what a nice.
Of course, they're
You could
happy.
actually use.
Recipe.
I think you could use the beef taco filling in them as well.
Yeah,
I think that'd be really tasty.
All sorts.
James,
all sorts.
I always remember James Martin years ago on Saturday Kitchen did the bride, like they're called bridies. I don't know what part of the country they're from. I don't think they're Cornish. But they're a bit like a poor man's Cornish pasty because they're made with minced beef instead of proper diced beef. And they're delicious. So it's a similar sort of thing, but with Mexican flavour instead.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here we go now. We have got the hot water and butter melted and emulsified together. So no issues there, no hard work required from us at all. 350 grams of plain flour. Just tip that in. And then a teaspoon of baking powder. That's a teaspoon, there it is. A teaspoon of baking powder. In fact, I think I've measured that out by the looks of it. There we go.
Somebody's just put in the chat, Lee's put in the chat that Brodies are from Forfar in Scotland. Or Brides.
There you go.
Brodies, there you go. Thank you for that. Always learning. There's always something to learn.
So we've got the plain flour gone in there. We've got a teaspoon of baking powder and an egg. And then we're literally going to pop the lid on there. And it's just going to need that for 2 minutes. Whilst we do that, I'll show you the ingredients for the next bit.
I'm sure there must be a recipe for bridies on cookie dough somewhere, or the Thermomix recipe.
Do you think?
I did just look, but I couldn't see an English one, but I only have an English filter.
I've actually left the chicken in the fridge, so 2 seconds. Long thing down the kitchen. So the recipe for the filling, which it's going to go on to in just a second, is chicken, red peppers, onions, garlic clove, some olives, a little bit of cumin and tomato paste. And that's going to mince that through. And this is what our end product looks like. So it actually cooks the chicken. It's going to shred that up for us. I'm going to make some more of this in a second, but this is just some I made earlier because it needs to be cool before it goes into your pastry cases, obviously.
Poor old Marie's been cooking all day, haven't you, Marie, getting ready for this class?
Give me all the ones that have got to be all prepped in advance.
Absolutely.
Okay, so our dough is done there as well. So I'll show you now. Our dough has been made. So that is our hot water pastry that would have taken absolutely ages to amalgamate by hand. But you can see how soft it is. And that is why you can't do anything with it straight away. You need to make sure that that is chilled.
And did you say, Marie, because I missed that, can you put it, would you take it out of the bowl and chill it, or would you leave it in the bowl and put it in the fridge?
Yes, so I would. So actually, here's a really good tip for this. Make sure you take it out and you wrap it really tightly in cling film, because something to do with the cooling process, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't know why, I just know it happens, but something to do with the cooling process. If there's any air in there, it can get to it at all, it dries out. So you want to really cover it tightly with cling film. Don't put it in a bowl and just put something on top of it or anything like that. That won't work in this instance. So it wants to be covered right next to the dough itself. Okay, right, let's bring you back down here again. So it's just talking you through there, putting it in the fridge and leaving it for how long. So the onions, 60 grams of onions, garlic, clove, chop those down. As Lindsay was saying, the beauty with the Thermomix is that if you're a cook, you maybe don't necessarily need to know all of the detail, in which case, you know what, it says it on screen, but you don't need to pay very much attention to it. You know what's coming next. But actually, if you're someone that's not a natural cook, or you're somebody learning to cook, or you've got kids that are learning to cook, those additional instructions that you tell you every last little detail, including scraping down the edges of the bowl to make sure everything's in the base, are so vital and so clever, because it just saves anybody any opportunity of making those silly mistakes, really. So we're adding the chicken in and the red pepper, very roughly chopped up, and some olives, and chop again. So seconds, 4 seconds. Don't know about you, but I'd struggle to get a knife out the drawer in that time. Well, if you'd seen my cutlery drawer, you'd understand that.
That's what I was just going to say. I've not seen your drawer, so that was a different conversation.
It's lightly minced the chicken and the olives and the pepper in there, but not so much that it's lost all its texture. It's still got some texture and some chunks in there. And now all we do is add in some olive oil. It's basically just going to saute this off and shred it for us at the same time, which is just brilliant. You know, when you can do 2 jobs at the same time, and actually it's not actually using your hands to do any of it. That's, you know, a win-win-win. So tomato paste, tomato puree.
Oh, beat it, can you?
There we go. And a teaspoon of paprika. I'll be quite generous with mine because I quite like paprika. And some ground cumin. We've got that there. Put that straight in. And a little bit of salt and pepper. And whilst that is cooking away, I will show you how to fill these lovely. So that's going on for 7 minutes. It's going on 120 degrees, and it's automatically put the blades into reverse for this recipe, which means that it's going to push against the chicken, and that's the method it uses when it's shredding your chicken. So, oh, I've gone 1 stage too far there. Right, so turn that on, and we'll leave that to get on with that. And if you come over here with me, just a quick tidy and put these bits out of the way. So these are the circles that we cut out of our lovely pastry. And now, well, we've got our filling that we did earlier on that's cooled down. And we're just going to half fill these. Now, don't take it right up to the edge because you're going to make sure you need to seal these. But you can fill them relatively generously. Simple as this. Oh, I got my water. Just going to seal the edges with a little bit of water. So just run your brush around the edges. That's just so. That's just so that when we pull them together, it's going to stick. And you're literally just going to pull them over, pull it towards you, and just press down around the edges. If you want to crimp it, there's lots of different ways to crimp it, but the easiest way is really simply with a fork. Just push that against the sides. It very neatly pinches it together. It gives you a little bit of decoration in the meantime as well. And that is all you need for your empanadas. They're going to go on a tray and they're going to bake for about, I think it's about 15 minutes at 200 degrees, and they will come out golden and delicious. Simple. You're
going to be eating them for the next week, aren't you, you and Chris? You've made so many of them.
Luckily, we like them. But also, I have found that they freeze extremely well, and they're also really nice to eat cold as well in packed lunches or picnics, or you can have them hot with a meal. So they're really quite versatile, actually. We've put them in the freezer and defrosted them, and they've been absolutely like fresh as a daisy to eat. So they're quite a good cook in advance, cook ahead recipe to have up your sleeve.
Yeah.
So
and also great for children to make. Little summer holiday activity. I had both my girls making them last week, and they even the 3-year-old really enjoyed it with a bit of
just
help.
filling and doing the crimping around the edge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant.
And she tried them, which is always a bonus. Some went in her mouth. Right, okay, brilliant. I think we're back over to Sue again for her tarts.
Sue, just one question for you, not to do with this recipe. Jo has put in the chat, she wants to know if anybody's got some tried and tested gluten-free, tasty, crusty bread without seeds and nuts. And as the gluten-free queen that you are, have you got some advice?
Without seeds and nuts. That is more tricky than some, actually, because a lot of them do use that instead. And certainly the recipes that
We've lost you, Sue, or I've lost you, unless anybody else can hear Sue.
No, I've lost her too. Oh no.
Oh no.
Well, while she's sorting herself out, do you want to just come back to me for a moment, Claire? It looks like her Wi-Fi connection's gone. Hello, everybody. Always take the opportunity to jump in when I can. You know me well. Right, so my pasta and chicken have finished cooking. The chicken's perfectly cooked. I knew it would be, because I don't have any qualms with these cookie recipes. As long as you stick to the recipe using the weights that are specified, then you are guaranteed a perfect result. But the chef in me always likes to make sure, so I've got my trusty temperature probe here, and I do generally probe pretty much everything before I serve it. Just looking for sort of 75 there to make sure the chicken's cooked through. Now, while I was off screen, I also took the opportunity to drain off the pasta, because the pasta was cooking in the bowl beneath. And what I've actually done is used the aroma dish, and of course my children are now fighting at the other end of the kitchen. As soon as I'm back on camera, just couldn't make it up. I've used the aroma dish to drain the pasta instead of using a sieve or a colander. So these appliances are designed to replace as many different items of kitchen equipment and accessories as possible. So really all you need in your kitchen is your Thermomix and possibly an air fryer or oven. So that's just drained away. So all I need to do with that really is just decant it or dump it into the bowl with the pesto. There it goes. Add my chicken in. I've already got cherry tomatoes cut up in here and some mozzarella, and just give it a stir around. And you get this beautiful, beautiful, vibrant green colour. I have to say, I dismissed this recipe a couple of months ago, and then I saw lots of advisors doing it and customers, and I thought, oh, am I missing out on something? Because I just thought it looked really boring, actually. And then I had a lady round for lunch, friend round for lunch a few weeks ago, and I was keen to give it a go. So I said, come round and I want to try this dish. And we both couldn't believe how tasty it was. And she was completely agog at how easy and quick it was to do, because I cooked it in real time in front of her. So there we go. So that's the dish. Fabulous hot, beautiful cold. So we can just pop that. I'll pop the lid on, leave it to one side. That will stay warm for a good couple of hours now in the bowl. Or you could wait till it cools down, pop it in the fridge, and then take it out on your picnic the next day. So hopefully Sue is back now. So she'll see if her Wi-Fi is back. Brilliant. Hello, Sue.
Hello. I'm sorry. I think my internet must have dipped out for a moment. So sorry about that. So I have carried on a little bit just to let you know what we're up to. So for the broccoli and feta tarts, if you remember, we were steaming the broccoli above the vegetables that were sauteing underneath. I've now taken those out and filled my muffin tray. You can just have a quick look here. So we've got those in place. And then the next step is to make the cream topping that's going to go in there. At the same time as that, I've also started off the eggs steaming for the Scotch eggs because they need to cook. So they was just a question of adding in water into the bottom of the thing. Now there is an egg boiling function, but when you steam them, they peel really easily. So I'm following the recipe using the steaming basket. The eggs have gone in there, and it's timing those for 11 minutes. As soon as that goes off, I'm going to cover them in cold water just to stop them cooking. So that's in progress there. And then if we come on to the next step here, it's calling for 200 grams of single cream. Now I'm actually using, this is the first time I've used it actually, but because we're dairy free in this house, or cow free, I'm using Oatly single cream replacement. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. It's always good to test these things. So I've just measured out 200 grams of that, which I'm going to pour straight in there. There we go. And if I click on to next, oops, it's asking for 4 large eggs, which I've used those eggs in there. So that's where it is. Right. So I'm just going to break 4 eggs in. No, I shouldn't do that actually.
No one noticed.
Don't bash your eggs on the side of the mixing bowl.
Or your spatula. So,
it could upset the scales if you bash it on a regular basis. So handy knife and a tap it off to the side. And then we go.
Well, you can do it, but just always take your bowl off the cradle first, and then absolutely bash your eggs.
That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah. So you can do it. The bowl is robust.
So there we go. That's 4 eggs in. And then if I click on to next, we just want, I'm just going to have to wash my hands for 1 second. There we go. So we're just adding in now 1 to 2 pinches of ground black pepper. So just doing that. And never works on the screen when you've got wet hands. Popping the lid on. And that's just going to mix together for 10 seconds on a speed 3. So a really easy process just to mix that cream up. Okay.
And obviously too, we lost you when you were just about to answer that question about the gluten-free, tasty, crusty bread without seeds and nuts. You didn't hear anything because you disappeared.
Hang on, I can't hear you whilst that's going, sorry.
I said, and we lost you when you were just telling us about the tried and tested gluten-free.
About the bread recipes, yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to come back on that question. It is a question I've been asked before, and I can't remember what I found. I did find some, but I can't remember them off the top of my head. They're not the ones that I personally do most often, but it is something that has been asked before. So I'm more than happy to be put into contact, and I can pass on what information I've got.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we can follow up. Normally, I email everybody afterwards with a link to the recording and just recapping on the recipes. So we can always add that information in. So
lovely. Okay, perfect. So if you can see in there now, that's just blended it all up. And I just literally need to pour that evenly into the muffin trays. So I'll just pop that in now. And you probably don't need to watch me do that, do you? And that's...
We can't see you anyway because the camera's a little bit too high up.
Ah,
so
okay.
Yes, down, we can see it anyway.
Right, it is. So hold on. And we'll see. Oh, no. There. Can you see that now?
Absolutely, 100%.
There we go. So I'm doing this one-handed. Let's hope that I get that right whilst I hold the camera in position.
Perfect.
So I'm just pouring this over, and then I've also got the feta to crumble in. And the other thing it asked for was Emmental cheese, which will get grated on the top. And I've actually used a vegan cheese. It's a vegan smoky cheese that melts really well. They have improved things like that a lot, actually. So I shall just give that a try so that my dairy-free son can also have some of those. We like to be able to eat what we're making. So there we go. And then they're going to go in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes until golden brown. So you'll get a look at those hopefully later on. And then,
Go back to Linda.
there we go. So sorry, put that back on there.
And I think we're going to Linda now.
Have you still got me?
Still got you, yeah, you're still
So
there.
I'm just going to move those to one side, ready to pop into the oven. And quickly remove the eggs and run them under cold water. So is there something else that's popping off in between whilst I do
Yes,
that?
we're going straight to Linda now.
Lovely.
Over to Linda.
See you later.
Now, Linda, you're actually doing some cooking, not just making something alcoholic.
Well, I don't mind the alcohol personally, but you know, yeah. So my recipe tonight is the blueberry crumble bars. And it is an American recipe, so it comes in imperial. But the one thing about Thermomix is that you don't actually have to do any conversion whatsoever, because when you start cooking, it just guides you through. You just weigh in exactly the same as you would with grams, etc. So there's no problem with any conversion or anything like that with this particular recipe or any other recipes that come up in imperial. So basically it's telling me to grease a baking pan, which I've already done, which is sitting here ready, and preheat my oven, which is already on. So the next thing is that it's asking me to put lemon, thin peel, which I have done with my sugar, and it basically you just take the very thin peel off the lemon without the pith, and add an ounce of sugar. So I've got that here, so that's now all going in, and we will go to the next stage, which is putting the lid on with a measuring cup, and I'll go next, and that is 30 seconds, and it's going to grind those together.
Just quickly, while we can't hear Linda, Sue, can you just tell us which brand of vegan cheese you used?
I can't hear a thing. All this is going is so noisy. We're now getting 14 seconds. We're about this.
Do you want me to pop it in the chat?
Yes, please, and because I couldn't see what it was, Linda's
It's
spotlight.
Applewood vegan.
Lovely, thanks, Sue.
You got that?
Yep.
Lovely.
Right, so it's asking me to scrape down the sides because it's been grinding. There are obviously the sugar and the lemon has sort of flipped up a bit, but we're almost there with that. So then go next step is another 5 ounces of sugar, which I have measured out here. So that's now going in. I mean, it's just so easy, just following the recipe, just telling you what you need to do. So the next thing is 10 ounces of all-purpose flour, which I've used plain flour. And we will then go 6 ounces of unsalted butter, which I have in my fridge to keep it nice and cold because it's a crumble. I don't want any melting sort of butter going in there. That's gone in. And then it says 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. So we have 1 and as near as damn it, 1/4, and we'll go next. And then the salt. So I've got some salt going in and 1 egg yolk. So I'll pop in the egg yolk in here, and we will push that all down. We've gone in. And then we put this on here. This is now going to make the crumble. 10 seconds. at speed 6. That's now going to combine it all together, make it nice and crumbly. Sounds really, that's it, done. So now I need to set my scales to 0 on here. So it's on to 0, because what I need to do now is to take out 8 ounces of the crumble mix, which will form the top coating.
Linda, I think you needed to set it to 0 after you take the lid off, perhaps.
Oh yes, absolutely right. There we go.
There you go.
So
My beady eyes.
yes. So it weighs down rather than weighs up, so we can still take that little bit. Oh, look at that, 6 ounces. Perfect. So now, so we want 8 ounces. Ooh, a little bit more. There we go. Nearly there.
That's such a cool feature, isn't it? That you can weigh out as well as weighing in.
So you can weigh up and weigh down. So yeah, it is really good. So that is in the bowl.
I wish my main scales did that when I stood on them.
Yeah.
So the next thing I need to do now is to put the mixture that's in the bowl. I'll bring this forward into my tray, which you probably can't see. I'll try and bring it down a bit so you can actually see here. So in here now is the crumble mix, and I'll just push this onto the tray that I've got ready prepared. All that goes in there. And then basically just spread it across the tray and press it down. So it will press all this down into the tray, and that'll make the base of the crumble mix of the bars. So I'm just doing that now. So I'll finish that off in a second. You can push it all into the side. It just makes a nice thin layer, and you can push it out into the corners so you get a nice even dough across the mix, and no leaking from, you know, when you put the blueberries on. So I've done that now. So the next thing to do is to put into the mixing bowl. I've put all the ingredients in the mixing bowl now. So I've added the 3 ounces of sugar, 18 ounces of blueberries, 2 ounces of lemon juice, and a heap of cornstarch, which I've used corn flour. And then I'll pop the lid back on, and basically what that's going to do is just going to mix all those ingredients together for 10 seconds on speed 0.5. I mean, 0.5, it just gives you the greyed out area on the machine, so that it's so easy just to do it. You don't have to work it out for yourself. And so all those great ingredients now are mixed up. And I'm just going to make sure that there are no holes here for any liquid to go through.
We don't want a soggy bottom, do we? No soggy bottoms. No soggy bottoms.
No, we don't want these soggy bottoms, do we? No. So basically then, all the ingredients, it's all coated, the sugar is all coated, lemon juice onto the blueberries, and transfer those to the crust and just spread it over it. So I'm now going to pour all this mixture over, and it will spread across the base of the pastry. And sorry, you can't see, can you? Let me just go here. And so I'm spreading the blueberries over the crumble base like that. And then all my reserved crumble, I'll just sprinkle this over the top, and then it'll go into the oven and bake for 40 minutes until it's all golden brown. So this is about all from me until I come back and show you the end result.
Perfect.
Great. So I think we're back over to Sue now for her Scotch eggs. So hopefully her eggs are cool enough to handle.
Yes. Okay, so I have taken the eggs out, and they have peeled beautifully easily. You know, sometimes when the egg all comes off with it, well, they haven't done that because the steaming does produce a really good method with that. So I've got my eggs ready peeled. I have moved forward with a few of the other steps just in the interest of time. So I'm going to show you, if I can move my camera a little bit. I should hopefully be able to show you the steps that we've gone through. No, let's see if I can. Let me see that.
Perfect.
Oh no, she's gone again.
Perfect. Bet she's frozen again.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, no,
I
you're
know.
back.
Is that showing correct? You can see it even.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's it.
can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can. Back
Yeah.
in the room.
Okay. So I'm just showing you this screen and the steps that I've followed. So this was taking out the eggs. It even shows you how to hook the spatula onto the steaming basket to double process that. Take out the steaming water. We've peeled the eggs. Oh, come on, screen.
If you steam eggs in the Thermomix using the simmering basket, which is the method Sue has followed, they are so easy to peel. You can also, if you are peeling eggs, you can use the new peeler blade cover attachment, but really only if they're hard boiled. I'm not sure I would risk it with a very soft boiled egg. But like I said, when you steam them, the shells just come apart, just come off really easily. It's very satisfying.
Okay. I'm just checking that you can see that there. Is that appearing backwards on?
No, it says 15 seconds, turn speed selected to 7. And even I can read that with cataracts. So good.
Um,
Where have you gone? You've gone.
She's gone again, hasn't she? Oh no.
Oh, poor Sue.
what I've then done,
Awesome.
breadcrumbs. Which are here. So I've literally just torn up some bread and thrown that in onto a few seconds that that's taken. And then we've gone on to make egg. I love Scotch eggs, but I can't.
I think it's very intermittent, isn't it, with Sue? So we're again.
Shall we do my cake in the jar and see if Sue can just leave and rejoin? Maybe Claire, if you just message her, perhaps let her know. Right, okay, so back to cake in a jar. Okay, so I'm going to pick up the recipe. I'm just going to do this slightly back to front for you this evening, mainly because, as I mentioned, I'm very lazy and don't like washing up. And I figured out if I make the icing first and then decant it, I can then go on and make the chocolate cake without having to wash out the bowl. Genius. So I've just melted some butter and I've got my chocolate in there as well that I grated earlier. Then to that, so I'm picking up the recipe halfway through, so you can dive into recipes halfway through. And in order to do that, actually, if I just move you down here onto this camera here, you'll be able to see it a bit better. In order to do that, if you go to the recipe detail at the start, use that little arrow, and then scroll down through the steps, you can actually pick the recipe up at whatever step that you want to. So here we go. My scales are automatically going to reset to 0. So I'm going to add in some cream cheese. I need a spoon. Just get that back to 0. So for some reason it is. Oh, I think I might have something resting up against it. Yeah, so if your scales are a little bit intermittent or they keep sort of darting around, just make sure that your cable isn't caught up underneath or nothing is leaning against the side of the Thermomix, because that will affect them. They're ever so sensitive, these scales. Right, so my cream cheese goes in, some icing sugar, 15 grams of icing sugar, a little bit of vanilla extract, which actually I haven't got out, and I'm not going to try and dig out of my cupboard, so goodness knows where that's gone. Lid on, and then it's just going to mix at speed 4 for 20 seconds. Lee, I saw you ask a question about adapting the Thermomix, adapting recipes from different cooking books into a Thermomix style method. Yes, it's very straightforward. What I normally suggest people do is find a similar recipe on Cookie Do. We've got over 80,000 recipes, so there will no doubt be something very similar. And then just familiarise yourself with the steps. But you would go on to use the Thermomix manually. Just press the home button, and then you've got your full control over your dial. So you've got your time, temperature, and your speed. And also refer to the guides at the back of the Simple Ideas book or the basic. I think they're at the front of the basic cookbook if you've got a TM5, or they're at the back of the Simple Ideas book. And those guides will give you recommended speeds and weights for all sorts of different ingredients, whether you want to chop it or blend it or steam it or whatever you want to do with it. So if that can be really useful if you are trying to sort of work your way through a non-Thermomix recipe. Okay, right, so I'm going to go back into my recipe. You might have noticed there on the screen, if you inadvertently come out, you've got this little bookmark. You see that? And if you just tap that, it will take you back to the place in the recipe that you left off from. Now it wants me to scrape down the sides. I need to make sure I don't use the spatula that I used for the pesto. So scrape down the sides. Oh, that looks really nice. I was a little bit suspicious about that icing actually, because I thought my chocolate had seized slightly when the butter had heated up to 50 degrees, but it seems absolutely fine. Lid on. And then I'm going to just mix that at speed 4 again. Now, have we got Sue back or not?
I'm here.
Yet?
Can you hear me?
Yes, right. Let's go back to Sue then.
I'm really sorry. I don't usually have these technical challenges. I've no idea what's going on, but I've had to kind of move on with some of the steps. So hopefully you can kind of follow what I've done, basically. So what I did, I don't know how much you caught of what I said, was that I placed bread in the mixing bowl and grated it for 15 seconds and then set that aside. And then into the bowl went smoked salmon, parsley, egg, and some of the breadcrumbs, but not all of them, and salt and pepper. And it mixed those for 5 seconds at speed 8. And then I tipped that out onto the chopping board as directed and shaped it into a log. So this is the rest of the log, because I've been making a start at getting these Scotch eggs ready so we can show them cooked. It actually is very easy to handle. It helps if you've got wet hands, which it even tells you to do that. So once you've done that, you chop it into pieces. I'm just doing half the amount, so I've got 4 here. And then if I show you this one from scratch, I'm going to get 1 piece of this smoked salmon, parsley and breadcrumb log. And if you can see, that's in my hand there. Just going to wet my hand slightly, flatten it like that. And then we just take the egg, which has cooled nicely now, and literally I'm just going to squeeze that around, and it just stretches around really easily. I never would have thought that it was so easy to make Scotch eggs, to be honest, but we just keep going round until the egg is completely covered, and that's all in a roll. And then I'll set that on one side. I've got 1 more to do. So here we go. Pop that egg inside. Now, I do think I have made a slight mistake here, and I suspect that the eggs are not going to be soft inside, because when I had lost my steaming basket earlier, I'd forgotten that I'd already put the steaming basket in the fridge with the eggs, because I usually keep them out to cool so that the timings worked correctly. And I'd used the eggs in my other recipe the wrong way round. So they're not going to be beautifully soft in the middle as they should be, but nevertheless, it still shows you the method, and that's a top tip for you. When you do the eggs, If they're not chilled eggs, then you need to reduce the time for steaming. Okay, so we now have those, and the next step is to dip them into the remaining breadcrumbs. I'm reading this off the screen, but it will just take you exactly step by step through on there. So we just roll them into the remaining breadcrumbs that we've got, and you can see how that looks like that. There we have a coated Scotch egg. And the next step is to fry them off in a frying pan, which I need to do behind me over there. So I'm not sure whether you need to watch that. I can get on with that whilst you go on to the next person if you'd like to do that, and hopefully I'll show you the end result once we're done.
Yeah, and that will be back to me. Okay, great. Thanks, Sue. All right, so what I've done while Sue was just working with the Scotch eggs is I have taken the icing out of my Thermomix bowl and popped it in a piping bag. Now, I haven't actually got much icing in here, so we'll see how we go, but I think the idea is you make some very delicate little sort of jars, and I don't really have delicate jars, so you may need to double or triple the amount of icing depending on the size of jars that you're using. So there you go, that's a tip. So what I did have is I had a piping bag with a big start nozzle in the end, and I've aborted that and actually just gone for a piping bag that I use to pipe out macarons. So it's got a very, very small cut. So it's not going to use up lots of icing. So I'm just going to leave that in my jar. So when you fill piping bags, I usually, you put them inside like a pint glass, basically. So here's my piping bag, and then I just roll the top down so it makes it open it up, and then it's really easy to decant the mixture into. So I'm just going to move that over to the side, and then I'm going to come back to the recipe and show you how the Thermomix makes the cake. So let's go back to recipe detail and pick it on the first step. Okay, so it's telling me, as all the recipes do, to prepare your oven and then to line the tin. And then this is such a simple cake, and actually this would be really easy to do as a vegan version as well, because there are no eggs in this cake. There's some oil, and I've actually used olive oil rather than sunflower oil, mainly because I prefer the taste of it. And then you could use sort of dairy-free milk instead of a milk from a cow, which is what the recipe calls for. So it's going to walk me step by step through the recipe. I've got it all weighed out here just to speed things up. So 90 grams of flour, 60 grams of sugar. Obviously, your scales will reset each time. Some cocoa powder, some baking powder, some bicarbonate of soda, and some salt. So they are all going in. I just got them all weighed out. And then we're just going to mix them up together. Okay, so mix. So this is effectively sieving your flour for you, and just sieving all the ingredients together. Now, it's asking to add some milk. I quite often use buttermilk in baking. I was a professional cake maker. Before I joined Thermomix as an advisor, I had, a bit like Marie, a cake making business. And I would always use, I have this signature recipe, which is absolutely delicious. I always use buttermilk in my cakes. So it's asking for 50 grams of milk. I'm using some buttermilk, 50 grams of water, some sunflower oil. I've used olive oil, and we're just going to pour that all in. So that all goes in. So this is a really, really simple recipe. I'd love to see actually how it bakes in a sandwich tin. I might have a play with it at some point. Really easy, that children can do it. Although having said that, my little girl had a go at this at lunchtime because I wanted one ready-made, and she inadvertently put double the amount of water in. So we ended up just doubling the rest of the recipe and using a larger tin to bake it with. And then we're just going to mix that to speed 4. What's Claire putting in the chat? If you make your own butter, Claire, the buttermilk that comes out when you make butter is not the same as the buttermilk that you buy. This has got live cultures in it. That's the difference. Okay. And this means that it's acidic.
Okay.
You can, but you'd need to perhaps, I would recommend adding some white wine vinegar in it to sour
Okay,
it.
cool.
So the reason this is really good in baking is it's got acidic cultures in it, so it reacts with things like bicarbonate of soda. Then you get the chemical reaction and the carbon dioxide, so that's what causes the lift. Right, so there's my cake mixture in there. And then it says finish mixing by hand with a spatula. As you can see, it's just sort of chucked some of the flour around the sides. But there we go. It's a really lovely chocolate cake mix, actually. You can see in there. And then all it wants you to do is then fill a 20 centimetre tin. So I'm not going to do that on camera because, frankly, everybody knows how to dump a load of batter into the tin. What I would say is that when you have batter stuck around the bowl, and this goes for dough as well, if you use the turbo mode and just give it a blast or so, 1 second, 2 second blast on turbo mode, it will just centrifuge the blades, it will spin out all the ingredients that are stuck on the blades round the side of the bowl, and you can just pick them up with a spatula. Right, so here is what happened earlier, and here's what I made earlier. This is the cake that we made this afternoon. You only need to bake this cake for 10 minutes because it's just baking in a very thin layer. And then it's asking you to clean the mixing bowl and then go on to make the icing. Right. So I'm just going to skip through a few steps because, of course, we've just made the icing. And pick it up. Right, pick it up here. So transfer the icing into a piping bag and set aside. That's what I've done. Then use a pastry cutter to cut 24 discs out of the chocolate cake. So it's recommending 4 centimetre circles, which I have just got a selection of cutters here because it's really going to depend rather on the size of your jar. So this is not quite a 4 centimetre circle. That's a 3 centimetre one. This looks like a 5 centimetre one to me. Anyway, let's just get a couple of the jars. So I've just got a selection of jars here to show you. I've got the Thermomix yogurt jar, which I sort of discounted because it's at a slight angle. So what you want is nice, neat layers filling right up to the sides. And because it's got a slight angle, it might make it slightly challenging with the cutter. Then I've got, these are great. These are little pate jars actually from Marks and Spencer's. And I keep fishing them out of the bin because my husband just tosses them because he thinks I've got far too much junk in my cupboards. But these are too good to toss. They make lovely little gifts. You put some lemon curd in there and give it away as a little Christmas present, or like Claire said, the lemon sugar or vanilla sugar. So every time he walks out the room, I just fish them out the bin and stick them in the dishwasher. So I thought that might make quite a nice little receptacle as well. So what we're going to do is we cut out the discs of chocolate cake depending on what size jars we've got. So if I'm going to use this, I'm going to use sort of this cutter. So let's have a go with that and see what it looks like. So can you see I've just stamped it out and then I'm going to drop it into, I think that's the idea, place a disc of sponge cake in the bottom of 8 jars. Each jar is approximately a diameter of 5 centimetres with an 80 ml capacity. Well, slightly, I might go for a slightly bigger round for this one. Let's take that one out. Wash that one in. There, that's better, isn't it? That fills the jar. There we go. Then it's wanting to me to add a teaspoon of Baileys or cream liqueur and top with icing. And then repeat the process twice more. So I'm not going to use the Baileys, but you can do, or you could put some jam in there if you wanted to. Some strawberry jam might be quite nice, actually. I've got loads of strawberry jam in the fridge, should have done that. So all I'm going to do, so here's my piping bag, and I'm just going to pipe some icing into the top. So this is how you get a nice sort of even, neat layer, like that. Rather than spooning it in, because if you spoon it in, it's obviously all going to go down the side of the jar. So that's a little sort of chefy tip for you. Then I'm going to put another layer of chocolate cake, and you could put some raspberries in or some strawberries as well. That would look quite nice in there. And then I'm going to just try and squish in another layer and then pipe in. I think I've done this before. Took one look at this recipe and thought, oh, I can do that without actually practicing. And that's the beauty of following a guided recipe on Cookie Sheet. You can't really go wrong, can you? Famous last words. So another another one of those just goes in. And how easy is this? So I'm going to turn it that way because that looks a bit nicer than that way. I've just upended the jar. And then you could, I've got some little strawberries here that you could sort of pop on the top just before you're serving them. If you've got guests at a dinner party, they look quite fun. I'm just going to see, now I'm playing around now, how it works in one of these jars. So I wondered if I could just squish that into into the yogurt jar. Might work. Have a little look. Pop it into the yogurt jar, fill it. What was that one? What size? I mean, the cake really is lovely, actually. It's baked really nicely and beautifully flat. Actually, you can't see that one. My piping bag is just in the way. And then another little layer of icing going in. I do think you would probably need, this one's not quite as neat because actually it's quite difficult to get that in to the jar. A bit like making a trifle, so that you could apply this to any cake recipe, really. There you go, finish with a nice little squirt of cream and a strawberry on the top, and then of course the strawberry on the top, and then you can just pop the little lid on like that. So there's just a couple of different options for you. So that's a cake in the jar. And like I said, if you've got your favorite sort of Victoria sponge recipe, you could try doing this without the cocoa powder. So just up the flour by 15 grams and take out the cocoa powder. You could use strawberry jam, you could use raspberry jam, you could put caramel in there. You can just let your imagination run away with you and make it your own. Okay, so hopefully Sue, we're going back to Sue to see her finish Scotch eggs.
So, oh, am I unmuted? Yes, there we go. So here we go. Ta-da! Can you see that? So this has beautifully crisped up on the outside. Now I just did them in shallow oil, actually, in a frying pan. You can deep fry them, but that was just my preference. And literally, because they hold together so well, you just keep them moving, constantly moving. You can tip them up onto their ends until they get just a sort of brown coating. And it takes 1 to 2 minutes. It's very easy to do. This is one of the things that I thought was really tricky, but I'm really pleased to see how that's come. You can see them I've cut them open. You can see that's not quite perfect because they are hard in the middle rather than soft, but I still bet they're going to be absolutely delicious. So we have those, and then I'm just about to get the others out of the oven as well. You might want to do something else in the meantime, or you can hang fire whilst I get them out.
Yeah, I can see Joe's asked a question about air frying. You could, I think in theory, you could air fry the Scotch eggs. The problem is what you want to do when you are deep frying the eggs is you're cooking the outside without cooking the center of the egg yolk anymore. So because you want a really runny center. We did have that conversation actually on our team meeting about air frying them and should we do them in an air fryer. And I suspect that you would overcook the eggs. They can absolutely be done, but I think you would probably end up with a hard-boiled egg in the center. Okay. I think Marie, you agreed with me there as well, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I always do them, but I do them exactly the way that Sue's done them. I don't own a deep fat fryer, and I don't really I deep fry so rarely that I don't like to fill a large saucepan with the oil just for a one-off because it's really going to end up as waste. So I just shallow fry them and they work beautifully.
Yeah, brilliant. I've just had one of my eldest daughters come in and she's just caught sight of one of those and gone, can I have she's very excited, hanging around, waiting for it. Yes, you can have one. You need to put some fruit on the top. You can't just have like chocolate cake and cream.
Can I just show the broccoli and thingy tarts that have also just come out of the oven? So you can see those there. I've just taken them out, a couple of them out, and you can see that they're kind of set. You just wait until they're set and golden on the brown. But I tell you what, they look really nice. So I'm going to enjoy tucking into those. And all of those things have been made gluten-free, and cow-free. I did use Feta in these, which was sheep and goat, which we can do. So it just shows as well that you can adapt things to suit your dietary requirements, and we're going to enjoy those very much.
Great. And this is amazing for us because actually we're kind of on time and we had such an ambitious menu this evening. So should we just whiz round everybody, and hopefully, Marie, your rolls have come out the oven and your empanadas are done as well.
I don't know how I've done this, but there we go. Here are the empanadas. So how nice do they look? And I've cut one in half. I don't know if you can see there, but you've got all the lovely yummy filling in there, all that spicy chicken. That's going to be my tea very shortly. And the rolls, the picnic rolls. There we go. We got those. So we've got some I've just put the egg glaze on, and some I've put some seeds on top just so that I know what filling is in which. But again, look at that, the filling going all the way through there. That's the tomato and olive filling there. So that's what I was saying about. See, even at the bottom, it's a little bit thicker than it is at the top anyway. So that's even with the edges being thinned out, you get a little bit of that. But they look delicious and they're really soft and they smell amazing. And I'm getting really hungry. So that's me. 2 flavoured
Right, let's go back.
and the empanadas.
Go back to Linda.
Okay, so if you can see, these are the bars, the blueberry bars. Basically what I had to do, obviously they're 40 minutes in the oven. So I did cook these before, but they look exactly like the picture, which is absolutely amazing. And they do need to chill in the fridge in order to be able to get the, you know, like the bar. So they taste delicious, really, really nice, and very, very simple to do. Nice.
Oh, we're coming to the end now of the class. As you can see, I've just taken the opportunity to decant my chocolate cake mixture into the tin, and I've used my turbo function. Can you see how beautifully clean that bowl is? So unfortunately, these days my children hate making cakes with the Thermomix because there's nothing left to lick. So they might get the spatula, but they don't get much joy with the blades and the bowl because you can pretty much clean it all out and get it into your tin. So I hope you've enjoyed that this evening. Do pop a little comment in the chat just to say how you found it. We are enormously grateful to our customers for helping us grow the Thermomix community in the UK. So if you can help us out by hosting a demo for us or recommending us to some of your friends, our business thrives on referrals. So we are always very grateful for the opportunity to come along into your house and do what we've done this evening, but in your house and get a group of friends together and you have a lovely evening having fun making and eating food together, which is the whole point of what we do in Thermomix. It's about sharing food and sharing our passion for how easy and effortless this amazing machine makes cooking. So this month's offer, if we've got any people on here that are looking to become owners, we are giving you a £50 voucher towards the e-shop when you buy Thermomix in August. So that's lovely. You can put it towards things like, where's my yogurt jar? I thought it had been swiped actually. Here's one of the yogurt jars. These are about £12, set of 8 jars on the e-shop. So you could buy yourself a Thermomix serving bowl and a set of yogurt jars, for example. You might not quite cover it, but anyway, it would go most of the way towards it. Or you can buy yourself a travel bag, as I think Claire put on her Facebook page, which is a great idea. They're about £39, very useful for holidays if you're going away with your Thermomix. So thank you for joining us this evening. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, you found it useful. We do run these sessions quite regularly, and we are looking to do face-to-face cooking classes. So if you are in the Leicestershire area, we have got our first face-to-face cooking class since lockdown, which seems unbelievable, happening on the 16th of September, which is a Friday in the morning. So my team and I are going to be running a hands-on class in a beautiful venue at Borough Court in Leicestershire, near Melton, between Melton Mowbray and Market Harborough. And the idea is you can come along, you can bring a friend, you can all get cooking, and then we sit down and we eat all the food that we've made afterwards. And the cost for that is completely covered by Thermomix. So if you are in the area, please feel free to come along. But thank you for your time this evening, and I hope you enjoyed it. Right, let's stop recording. There we go.